I have just finished cleaning because before I can start any work, apparently I have to clean everything. And most of that is just reorganizing and like tidying up after the last day's work that I should have done on the last day, but I didn't do on the last day. I got done cleaning and now it's time to get back to work on getting ready to move my furnace. This is a job that I've been trying to get people to come and give me a reasonable, sane, proper quote on since before I moved into this house. I actually had at least 2 different HVAC contractors come in and look at this project while it was still in escrow, in clearing conditions and all that sort of thing. I wanted to get an idea of how expensive it would be to see how that would impact my overall budget. And let me preface this by saying, I got no problem with people making money. I got no problem with people having, a decent living. I understand that businesses, sometimes, a lot of the ones around here, especially in the trades, often don't have expenses like advertising and employees and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like, I get that stuff will always cost more to pay someone else to do it than if I'm going to do it. What I don't get is when someone who is, they've gone through their training, they've gotten their journeyman, their masters, their certificates, their gas tickets, and they've got all the certs and they're worth the most money when they're coming out to do the most difficult work. They're the furnace technicians, they're the layout planners, they're the boss, they're in charge, they're worth the most. I get it. When you're doing that work, I feel like it makes sense to charge that kind of money. But when you're doing sheet metal assembly, I don't think it makes sense to charge top-end, boss-level, furnace technician, gas fitter wages. So, yeah, get paid. Yeah, make money. Yeah, cover costs. All these things that go into it. But also bill for the type of work that you're doing. When someone wants to charge what a lawyer makes for sheet metal work, and sheet metal work, when they're paying someone else to do it, is worth $35 to $45 an hour, but they want to charge me $250 an hour, I have a real hard time with that. I have a real hard time when someone says, yep, this will take me on my own a day, and they want to get $4,500 for it. Well, there's material costs. Okay, material costs, $650. And that included this tool, which I had to buy because I don't already own one. And this tool cost me $40. So now we're down to $610. And, I had to buy this, which was $20. So now we're down under $600 because no one is going to use a whole tub of mastic on a job like this. Like, it's just not going to happen. I also had to get some other things that I didn't already have. I had some of the straight snips from the vinyl siding, but I didn't have any of the offset snips, so I had to get a couple of those. I did have this guy from before, so it's just, there are ways that they do cost more, but because they already have all of the tools and all of the experience and all of the training and can bash this stuff together in a real hurry, there are ways that they should not cost more. Like, I don't have to pay them to go buy this tool. If I do have to pay them to go buy this tool, there's a problem there. So in the end, in material, I'm in for about $600. There's a little bit more I'm going to have to buy, and I'll put in the full totals at the end of the project. But that's about what I'm in for right now. I checked at this place, and I checked at this place, and I finally went with this place because they were a lot cheaper. This place wanted to charge more than retail for probably half the stuff. Not a fan of this place. Anyway, the first thing that I want to try to do today, because it's the most difficult thing, everything else I've designed to be plug and play, Lego snap together. At most, I have to cut it to length, and I have to cut whatever you call the holes in the top of the ducts to put the top takeouts in. I have to cut those, and I have to cut some of them to length, but everything else is just Lego snap together. Like there's one custom piece, and we're gonna work on that today. The only custom piece that I have to make is this little transition from the top of the furnace to the bottom of the plenum. And that's just so that it can transition to the size of the plenum that whoever replaced this furnace put in so that they could transition up to the existing original plenum here. The reason I want to replace this piece is so that I can suck up a little bit of extra height out of the top of where the plenum stops and below the floor joists. So right now I've got about 5 inches of gap there. I'm gonna leave 1 inch on top, which means I want to make this piece here 4 inches taller. And the reason I want to do that is because for this door space into the bathroom, I don't want it sitting down any lower than it absolutely has to. I want it to be as high as possible. It's already going to be a short door. I want to have as little shortness as I can get. I'm actually going to undo this one and pull this cleat off to get a better measurement. Okay, well, what we'll do then is we'll tap this back and cut this end off. In an effort to make sure that I rebuild this in the same way that it was originally built, I pulled this back just enough to see that these are all S-clips. There's no D-cleats on here, and it gives me a better idea of how this was measured. So instead of the 6 1/4, this is actually about 6 3/4, maybe even 7. Let's get this put back on and sealed back up. Not quite good as new, but that'll definitely keep the air going in the right place while I get everything else sorted out. Now, the way it sort of looks that this piece is sitting on top of the furnace is kind of like this. But whoever installed it actually took the time to fold the bottom edge under so that the homeowner doesn't have a sharp exposed edge here. That's a nice touch, and that's one I'm going to try to duplicate. Which means I add on an extra 1 inch to the overall height that I'm trying to get out of this. I only have one of the sides that needs to be at all slanted. Otherwise, this is a box that just goes straight up on 3 sides. That means that I can cut out 3 pieces all the same height and then cut the angle that I need once I figure out what that is to get the pitch so that it meets right at the top for the one piece at the front, I guess, that needs to be tilted a little bit. And then I can use whatever length is along that angle to figure out how tall the last piece has to be. So I'll just start by cutting out 3 pieces 11 7/8 inches tall. And because math is hard, I will cut one and then mark the next one off of that new edge. That's pretty straight. The amount of time that I have to spend fussing getting this cut just so is time that I would expect an HVAC contractor to not have to spend. I would expect an HVAC contractor to have the electric nibblers and all of the fancy tools to make this stuff go quickly and easily. I mean, I would almost expect them to have in the back of their truck just a big sheet metal cutter. You put this in at your line, bend it up, you're done. But instead, because I'm doing this as cheaply as possible, I get to come at it with the offset cutters here. So it's going to take me probably 1 minute to 3 minutes per cut here. That means that each of these cuts that's going to take me 1 minute to 3 minutes each would take them 30 seconds. That's one of the ways where hiring the professional should make things go faster and therefore cheaper overall. I've noticed immediately that this galvanized steel on this galvanized steel doesn't seem to really want to slide around too much. A lot of the times when I put a straight edge down, it's just like, all right, I'll start here, and by the time I get down here, it's slid out to the side. So I'm liking that. I'm going to over plan this because I don't want to screw it up. I'm going to have a little bit of extra flanges going here. I just figured out that instead of having a seam here, they just folded this one over. But I'm trying to investigate how they joined this seam. So I'm going to pop these screws out. And give myself a quick look-see. Okay, they've just got that, that seam going the other way. That's fine. Just trying to think of a way I could get this to be on the inside. And if I just sort of folded this over, I would have what they've got going on there. I've got to make room for my bottom fold. I would rather take more time and fuss this out and look like a complete idiot than mess it up and not be able to finish this at all tonight. So we are going to take our little double fold over there, and if I want to fold this back before folding it out, I'm going to have to cut this off all the way up. Okay. So now that will go up. No, I am not a good cook. If you have come from the swiping apps and you're like, wow, this guy does everything, is he also a good cook? I might have struck the jackpot. Nope. I am not a cook. I am not a cook. Now this should be able to fold straight over. There. Now I've got that tab-inable insert that they've got over there. A lot of what I'm doing right now is just exploring how the materials work. And I'm doing that because I've never used this stuff before and I don't know what the system is. And I would expect that if I was getting someone else to come in and do this, that they would have the system already worked out under their belt and they'd be able to say, yeah, I know how to do this exactly, and just get at her. So we'll find out how long it takes me to do something like this. I was quoted by the place that sold me all my material that if I wanted a custom piece made by them, it would be like $50. And I thought, you know what? With how much I'm saving by doing this myself, I can burn off one piece of sheet metal and maybe an extra day or two, if that's what it comes to, by saying, I want to try this. I want to see if I can learn the thing. I want to see if I can figure it out. And then if I can't, well, gosh darn, it cost me all of $14.56 plus tax. That's really not that much as a backup cost. It'll take them like 2 or 3 days just to work it through the system. But in the meantime, you know what? I think I can get this sorted out. And if I can, then okay, so I've saved $35. But more importantly, I've learned how to do this, and Milwaukee is ruining my shot. But more importantly, I've learned how to do this, and it's a skill I'll have going forward to any other time that I ever need to say, I need a custom piece of ductwork. Now let's go deal with Milwaukee. So this will fold out this way. That's an effort. And then this shorter edge, see if I can fold that back down. Now let's see if I can get this other end in over that. I didn't get that very flat because I'm hammering against wood, so I'd be surprised. Looking at this like this is going to be this new back piece that's going to receive a piece coming in this way and insert into the piece going that way. I think that'll do. Sense of accomplishment right there. All right, so that is, let's mark this as back. Now this insert is not a full inch. How deep is this insert? So that's 1 past a half. So I've got to trim this down. All right, now that's a finished piece. Now that one will be able to, when the time comes, slide into this groove. That's tidy. There's more than one ways to skin a cat. Don't skin cats. This corner will be in the way of getting an S-clip in. It'll let me only get it in from one direction. So I'm gonna cut that corner out. So that'll get smushed in there a little bit. I've got 3 sides of my box here. The last side is just this one front piece. I can take a measurement off the front here and I get about 11 inches. I can add the 1 inch for the bottom flange here, and that means that this little bit of an angle has added a whole 1/8 of an inch. Definitely worth waiting to fuss this out. But I'll be able to get this done here, and I'll have made my first ever piece of actual custom ductwork. That's kind of fun. And now both my gloves have split on the thumbs. So we'll just... Okay, I guess we'll get new gloves here in just a minute. At this point, I was still using the really flimsy black nitrile gloves because the leather gloves that I normally used for everything at that time were just too slippery. Couldn't grab the sheet metal at all, and it felt like I had no control over anything. It wasn't until a few days later that I found these Mechanics brand grip style gloves. They have got little rubber pads all over the inside of the palm and on the fingers, and they made working with the sheet metal really easy. It had so much grip. I even started to using it for everything else, like framing and electrical and like garbage collection. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
Wiggle, wiggle.
I think I have just finished putting the last bend in the last piece for the first box that I need to make. Now we're gonna put it together and see if it looks like a box. Ow. Wouldn't that be funny if the only cut that I get is on my leg as I'm walking past one of those? I'm wondering why I have to push so darn hard for these screws, but you know, it is what it is. So for this whole box, I have one genuine, like, oops mistake that someone would look at it and say, yeah, that could maybe cause a problem. Right down in this corner here, I cut off an angle, and I should have cut off just a little chunk like up here. Up here, I cut off too much of a chunk, but I'll have an S-clip going over there, so that's going to cover that. And the same at this back corner here and in this corner here. All of these defects, this is my only like good corner for the top. All of these defects are going to get covered up by the S-clips. This one down here will get covered up by tape, and that'll have to do. The rest is, you know what? I think it's a box. I think it'll raise up the plenum as much as I need it to, so I can be okay with that. Now, to be fair, it took me like 3 hours to make this thing. I have had some professionals come by through the Twitch chat and say, yeah, this would probably be like a 15-minute job with their shop, right? So they've got the full-size proper tools, they've got the full sheets, and they've got all the experience and knowledge. I am figuring it out as I go and using hand tools and using not the right hand tools because I didn't buy all the correct hand tools. I'm also kind of deciding I don't really love these screws, so we'll see what we can do about that. But it's done, and that's kind of nice and like relatively stable too. Okay, let's play a little bit of Legos. Oh yeah, pick the second possible heaviest one. Oof. Boom. I've done about as much as I can in terms of pre-assembly until I have some pretty good exact measurements for where the furnace is going to be, where the takeoff ends, and where the ducts extend. So that's going to be all of what I do tomorrow, laying out exactly where am I going to put the furnace. Based off where the furnace is, how long is the first takeoff? Then I can add in how long is the next piece of ductwork. Then I can add in how long is the next piece of ductwork. And I can align where I want my floor registers to come up based off of those first measurements and where the floor joists are. So it's going to be a whole bunch of really fussy back and forth. Check a thing, do it again, check it and check it and check it and measure and check and measure and check to get it to the point where I actually have the length that I need. And then I can cut the next piece of ductwork and assemble that. And that'll also let me start putting in the top takeoffs that come out of the top. This is the return, but we'll just pretend this is the duct, the supply that come out of the top of the supply and go into the floor joist spacing. I have no idea how long it's going to take to do that, but it will save me a ton of time when it comes to actually move the furnace. I'll have everything pre-assembled. I'll have my top takeoffs in. I'll be able to disassemble the furnace, bring it over here, get it running, and then just start plunking stuff up. And what that does for me is it lets me have a lot shorter of a downtime without heat and get things going back up to the house, back up to the main floor a lot faster. And I'll have finished positions for the floor registers for like probably 90% of them. That's tomorrow, but in YouTube land, that's a fade to black away.